That's the camera. Faith is always something I've struggled with. Not so much with actual beliefs, but working out what it means to me and how I see it within my life. It was the summer of 2020, way before COVID was a thing, before I'd got to Australia, and I was at a youth camp with some friends, and over the course of the week, all of the sermons were surrounding the parable of the lost son. And this is a story that I've read and reread countless times throughout my life. The first time I heard it was a Friday afternoon in Year 8, going to my first Bible study with some friends and the school chaplain, who I'm glad can be with us today. For those that aren't familiar with the story surrounds a son who wants to claim his inheritance from his father and go live a lavish lifestyle, only to end up having wasted all of his money and ending up homeless. Returning home to his father, expecting now to be treated like a slave, he returns to open arms and a love from his father, like it says in Luke chapter 15, verses 22 and 23. But the father said to his servants, "Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Kill the fattened calf and bring it. Let's feast in celebration." Now, Stu had asked us to think about the story and what it told us about God. Now, having us spoken about the story, I'm sure there was a line of questioning surrounding God's love and what we could talk about God's relationship with us from the story. But being the growing teenage boy I asked if there was mint sauce to go with the lamb. But I always try and be funny where I can, and I don't mind a joke, but I think the reason I reacted this way is because this is the first time I can remember having read a story in the Bible and it really hitting me in a place that was different to anywhere else. And I think it was one that really made me connect and think about my relationship with God. And then round rolled 2020, and my relationship with God at this point in my life was still up and down and had been a bit on and off, and I was invited to a youth camp. At the time, I said yes because I thought it would be a fun week away with my mates, getting up to all sorts of stuff that teenage boys do, causing trouble in good and bad ways. But then I broke my collarbone on the camp while running at someone with a tackle pad on a slip and slide. But it meant that I couldn't take part in any of the other activities that week, and it sucked because I really wanted to go whitewater rafting and sailing with them, but that's what happens. But it did mean that I got to sit down and think about my relationship with God. And it's the same story that I'd heard for years before, but it had a different meaning now. It's hard to describe. It was good for me to be able to sit back and think about what I had and hadn't done in terms of my relationship with God. And the message stuck in my head for the rest of the week and really made me think about the choices I had up until that point in my life. Then, on the last day, the pastor had asked us if anyone who hadn't given their life to God and wanted to do so was to come forward and to confess their love for Jesus. And I cannot remember what happened, but I remember this clear as day. Standing there, shutting my eyes, surrounded by my friends, asking myself what to do, because I absolutely had no idea. And by the time I'd opened my eyes, I had already walked down the front and I was sat right in front of everybody. And that feeling of clarity and calm is something that I've never felt in my entire life. And then when I asked everyone else around me, they said they don't know what had happened. It looked like I'd been pulled up there by some imaginary rope. That was the best feeling I've ever had in my life. And if you asked me today to define what my faith means, I probably couldn't do it. In the same way that if you asked me 5 years ago, or in 5 years' time, I probably still couldn't do it. But it makes sense to me, and I think that's what's important. And I'm glad that I can be a part of this church where we can all share our love for God and faith in unique ways. Thank you.